He spent enough time next.
I will call this meeting to order. This is the Delta County Board of Adjustment. It's on. It's on.
I thought red was dead, sorry.
Like, we knew what we were doing. No,
Sorry.
this is the Delta County Board of Adjustment. If anybody's here for any other board,
You're in the wrong place.
we will start with roll call.
Kim Kelly, North Fork.
Mike Twomley, Delta.
Ron Hayes, District 1.
Candace Blair, District 2.
Kate Hurt, planner.
Brittany Meeting, planner.
Sean Gardner, planning director. Robert Neal, code of compliance.
Moving on to public comments. This time is set aside for any of the public to speak for matters that aren't on the agenda. Being there's only one tonight, we have a room full. Hearing none, moving on to the agenda additions, deletions, and corrections.
There are none.
Moving to the meeting minutes of a previous meeting for April 25th.
I did not see any errors. I would move that we approve the minutes as written.
Second that.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the past meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion pass. Okay. The scheduled items for tonight. The one on the docket is project number 24-063 Hawk. This is to consider a variance for the use of a cistern to serve as a domestic water source for a commercial venue. And I'm going to read that one more time. Consider a variance for the use of a cistern to serve as a domestic water source for a commercial venue. That is the item that we are scheduled to discuss. Any other discussion of any other things that are happening on that property, we have no control over in this meeting. It's just for this variance for the cistern. So if we can keep comments to that, it would expedite things for us immensely. So moving on, staff.
I'll go ahead and introduce the variance request. And Mr. Hayes already, made my first point. This is, the purpose of this meeting is for a variance request for a cistern to serve as a domestic water source for the event venue that's being proposed by the Hawks on the property. The subject property, as pretty much everybody here knows, is located on the east and south sides of Cottonwood Creek Road. It's parcel number 34, 47, 22, 30, 50, 03. That means anything to anybody. The address is 43440 Cottonwood Creek. You can go to the map, kind of give you an idea of the layout, the site plan. So the blue rectangle is the barn venue location, proposed access pointed out by the yellow arrow, driveway in the pink dotted line, and the approximate cistern location indicated by the red circle. The property is zoned A20. So therefore applying for an event venue requires a limited use permit with notice, public notice, a site plan review, adequate services for the venue like water, on-site wastewater treatment system, address, access, power, etc. And a project like this is not to also impact ag negatively. So As director, I elevated this application to a conditional use permit, referring the project to the planning commission and the board of county commissioners. That was based on a determination that the proposed development may have material impacts on the neighboring properties or public resources that are unusual in kind or degree due to the unusual context of the subject property. That's from Chapter 8, Section 2 of the Land Use Code. This is mainly due to, at the time, an undefined water supply source and also the concerns and questions voiced by neighbors who called. Therefore, again, please understand that there are still several steps to complete in the conditional use permit for this event venue. Upon resolving this question of water supply, this application will go to various county departments and external agencies for review and comment, and then to a public hearing before the planning commission, and then finally to the board of county commissioners for a final determination. So I just want to lay out the steps that still are ahead so you understand the context in which this variance hearing is occurring. So let's keep our proceedings focused on the conditional variance request to use a cistern with domestic water supply for this event venue tonight. And Kate, you can go ahead and do the variance request.
Next one. So in the land use code, chapter 5, section 3, for all development within the unincorporated areas of the county, water supply and wastewater disposal is a requirement. So it requires adequate supply of water is available to serve the development, requires adequate and appropriate means for OWTF, which is septic, to serve the development, and that the water supply shall meet minimum Colorado primary drinking water regulations, which is quality, quantity, and dependability. So in the code, cisterns is under chapter 5, section 3B3. It states that cisterns shall not be considered unless the property is located within service area and the water purveyor agrees to allow the cistern, or there is no other water source available, and the development consists of a max of 1 dwelling unit and 1 ADU. It also states that cisterns may be allowed with permitted on-site waste or on-site water sources such as a well or a spring to feed it. Existing cisterns may be allowed to continue, however, new development and or intensification of use shall comply with the current code. Again, this is not an existing cistern. This is what is being proposed as a temporary water source. The Board of Adjustments may authorize a variance from the requirements above when all other options have been exhausted. An application of the code would result in difficulties to or exceptional or undue hardship upon the owner of the property. So the 3 findings that the board needs to consider is, the first one is any unique conditions to the property, historical landmarks, cultural artifacts, things of that nature. And that the strict application of a regulation in this code would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties to or exceptional and undue hardship upon the owner of the subject property. Staff finds that there are no unique conditions topographically that would prevent a domestic water source being supplied to the venue. However, the applicants have applied for a new well permit with the state. They are also in the process of vacating the erroneously approved subdivision plat so that they can also apply for and drill a well on the venue property. This is all depending on the quality of the well, which will require testing. The second item that the board must find is that a variance from the strict application of the regulation at issue would relieve such difficulties or hardship. Staff further finds that the cistern would temporarily relieve difficulties or hardship as the applicants have now applied for a new well permit on the neighboring property owned by the Hawks and have also started the process to vacate themselves from the original Hawks subdivision so that they may also apply for a new well on the venue property, which once drilled and completed would be piped to the venue itself, thus supplying a reliable source of domestic water. The last item that, or criteria that the board needs to find is that a variance shall not be granted for a use or activity that is prohibited by this code in the zoning district in which the subject property is located. The proposed use is allowed, provided a zoning permit is issued for the venue. The applicants are in the process of a limited use permit, which has been elevated by the director to a conditional use permit. So, when the staff report was posted, staff had recommended denial, after receiving the well permit and documentation that they have applied for another reliable water source. And with the discussion about vacating them from the previous subdivision, staff has now recommended, that this be a conditional approval, based on the 5 conditions here. So the first one is that the use of a cistern as the domestic water supply and source of septic for the Hawk event venue shall be allowed to serve as the temporary domestic water source for the event venue until a permit is issued from the Division of Natural Resources for an exempt commercial well. Said cistern shall be fed from the town of Crawford through a pass to purchase water at 5,000 gallons per month. Said cistern shall also meet all requirements for size to accommodate the number of gallons needed to operate the system for the event venue. Said cistern shall also be tested regularly for quality, quantity, and dependability. Condition number 2, in regards to a commercial well permit being issued, the property is currently in the process of vacating the subject parcel from the Hawk family subdivision. By doing this, the venue property will be allowed to apply for an exempt commercial well through the Division of Natural Resources to be located on the venue property. However, if for any reason a well cannot be drilled on the venue property or is of poor quality, the applicants shall continue pursuing the existing well permit for the neighboring Hawk property, which is at 43227 Cottonwood Creek Road, for the purpose of domestic water to the venue. This water may be hauled from that well. Condition number 3, once a well permit has been obtained, the applicant shall provide proof of an adequate domestic water supply for the Hawk event venue to the planning department. The land use code requires that an adequate supply of water is available to serve proposed development and that an adequate and appropriate means for wastewater treatment and disposal is also available to serve proposed development. Adequate evidence shall be provided that a water supply meets the minimum Colorado primary drinking water regulations and that it is sufficient in terms of quality, quantity, and dependability. Condition number 4, during the temporary period of the cistern, the venue hosting capacity per month shall not exceed 1,000 individuals in total per month. This is based on OWTS calculations requiring 5 gallons per day, per person per day. Thus, 5,000 gallons of water supply per month from the town of Crawford limits the venue's hosting capacity to a maximum of 1,000 individuals per month. This was actually a condition that was recommended by environmental health. The last condition is if operations begin before a well permit is issued, the applicant shall submit a monthly report to the planning department demonstrating compliance with the limitations on the OWTS. Said report shall include, but may not be limited to, number of events held in the current month of the report, number of attendees per event each month, and status of obtaining a well permit. So with that, due to the new information regarding the water availability for the property, staff has changed their recommendation to conditionally approve the Hawk variance, subject to conditions. As such, staff recommends that the Board of Adjustment consider required variance findings as they apply to project number 24-063 Hawk and provide direction to either approve, conditionally approve, or deny a variance for the use of a cistern as a domestic water source for an event venue as a commercial business, and authorize the director to prepare a resolution reflecting the BOA direction, including evidence relative to the required findings and conditions as applicable. And that concludes what I have to add.
Any staff discussion? Board?
I think she clarified it from what the beginning statement was, that it is temporary. And there's due diligence to find an adequate water source, so. You guys made it very clear that it's temporary and they have to fulfill other things. So, yep, I have no questions.
In the event that that's not fulfilled, what happens?
It'd be subject to another, board of investment approval to continue or
To operate,
to deny.
or okay,
The continuance.
What timeline can we put on this? Should we approve the cistern use?
A year would, I suspect, be a good timeline.
Mhm.
I think you pretty much take out 3 or 4 months here pretty quick as far as being able to drill well.
Okay.
All right, we'll let you guys have the floor.
I think everything pertaining to this is in adequate things. What we've been working on. If you guys have any questions, happy to answer them.
could you introduce yourself?
I'm Robert Hawk.
Sorry, I'm Daryl.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. No, that's okay, thank you.
First one, first meeting.
All right, we can open it up to public comment as long as we can hold it to the cistern, the variance for the cistern. Thank you. In order of signing in, Tom Beckendorf. No, we'd like to limit these to 3 minutes as well, so.
Okay, I'm Tom Beckendorf. I live at 4804 4300 Road in Crawford. About half a mile from the event center. I guess my first question to you guys is why this was, after the staff recommended to deny this conditional use permit, why it was changed?
Because of the commitment to, and, an existing, well permit that they have for the adjacent property. And the commitment to, pursuing a subdivision vacation that could permit them to possibly drill a well on the venue property.
Okay.
And letters from the Department of Natural Resources to confirm all of those.
Okay, thank you. I am opposed to the conditional or the variance, and mainly for the same reasons that the staff report was. Chapter 8, Section 6, subsection 2D and E of the Delta County Land Use Code speak about reasons why this could be denied. And one of those, subsection 2D, is that the applicants brought this hardship on themselves by building a 4,000 square foot venue before they had a permit. They brought this hardship on themselves. The other point, 2E, is that they will be using the cistern to make money off their property. Those are two very clear items that the staff report found in the very beginning. The other comment I have is that is the city of Crawford really a reliable water source? It says in the letter that was submitted to the city or to the county that the only way a customer cannot purchase water is if the water dispenser is shut down due to drought. So there may be times there is no water. It also says that the water is for domestic use. And it goes on to say that we don't regulate if it's used for commercial or not. However, if you take into account all the other folks out there that use that water and that depend on that water for drinking, for cooking, for flushing their toilets, they're gonna be taking 5,000 gallons a month out of that thing? What about all those other folks that depend on that water for use? They could be in a position where they don't have water because it's already been taken. That's the problem I've got with this. And that's really, I just hope that you consider to deny this application. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next on the list to speak, Thad Schroeder.
Ed Schrader,
Schrader.
that's right. 43799 Cottonwood Creek Road. I think most of us were anticipating talking about a lot of other things besides the water, but that's all right. Anyway, I operate the Mad Dog Water Company. And after I learned about the event center, I called Daryl August 27th to ask him how he was getting domestic water. His response was, I was planning on using Mad Dog Water, and I told him that, you know, being commercial use, it wasn't possible. He also told me he had all the required permits needed and everything was on the up and up. The very next day, he told me that they had an alternative water source. Weeks later, after talking to the owner of the water company, he was still in contact with the owner of the water company asking for water, so that he denied an alternative water source. And at this point, they were well into the building process of the event center. Like Tom said, I think this was 100% brought on themselves, and I guess that's all I have to say about the water, and I'm obviously against it, the variance. Thanks.
Thank you. John Irwin.
Good evening, folks. My name is John Irwin. I live at 14996 Needle Rock Road. I too am very concerned about this event center trying to bypass the land use code that we've just worked so hard to get in place. And now we're already subverting and changing from our original intent to suit one individual, one business effort. And I find great offense at that. But I wanted to do more research on this. So yesterday I drove down to Crawford. I went to said vending machine. And right on the front of the vending machine, it says, this machine is for Crawford residents only for household use. So I got on my little handy cell phone and looked up household use. What is a household? It is a dwelling unit with one occupant. That's what that water is intended for. That's what the big yellow sign, and I've got it on a cell phone here if anybody else would like to see the sign, is right on the front of the machine. Now, the founding fathers of Crawford, the people who control Crawford were nice enough to tell these folks, God, yeah, we sell permits at 5,000, but it's supposed to be for household use. And we don't have a big enough staff to regulate this. So you know what they depend on? They depend on honesty. They depend on a co-working spirit of the citizens and people be willing to follow the letter of the law, which is laid down in the land use code that we just all worked so hard to make work. And now we're going to bypass it with the first money-making some guy wanting to come in and make money, and we're going to blow off all that work and come up with a variance when it is so clear that this violates that land use code. Folks, you've got a chance here. You've got an incredibly unique environment. I spent 35 years with the United States Air Force traveling the entire world. This is one of the most unique places on planet Earth. You have the chance to stand up for your land use code and maintain that uniqueness. Or you can roll over to the first big business guy that wants to come make a buck and tell us to ignore those laws, tell us to ignore those things we all agreed on so he can make a buck. I urge you to deny this variance and stand behind the land use code we all worked so hard for. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jenny Holmes?
Thank you, Jenny Holmes on 42996 Needle Rock Road. Yeah, I took a picture of that. If anyone wants to see what it says, I'm happy to pass around my phone. But it says prepaid cards only, water for household use only, Crawford area residents. The people that are going to be coming to this venue as it is being advertised online are not Crawford residences. They're also stating that they're trying to fill a need. We have a church that people can get married at. I don't foresee Crawford people getting married in their venue. Sorry, I just don't see that. But it's for Crawford area residents only. If they take this water, it's taking it away from the residents of Crawford and giving it to people that are from out of town. So that is my concern, and I am against the variance.
Thank you.
Thank you. And last on the list to speak is Veronica Schrader. I got it right for you.
My name is Veronica Schrader. I live at 43799 Cottonwood Creek Road in Crawford. I also work for Mad Dog Water Company. I too am opposed to the variance for the use of a cistern to serve as a temporary domestic water source for the venue. And again, it's my belief that this alleged hardship was completely avoidable. They should have ensured that they had water for their venue before construction ever began, and simply could have contacted the county, or they could have contacted myself, or they even could have called the owners of Mad Dog Water Company to check to see if they could indeed use the water. They would have found out very quickly that that was not the case. So they created the hardship themselves, and the reason they're asking for the variance is so that they can earn money with their event center. And according to the land use code, these reasons should disqualify them from receiving a variance. And I ask that you vote in accordance with the staff recommendation that was prior to this one, and deny the request to haul water to the cistern. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'd like to also note that I did receive another comment. It doesn't strictly pertain to the variance request, but I'll go ahead and read it so that you have it. This is from Kevin Bound at 43333 Needle Rock Road. To the Delta County Commissioners and Planning Review Board, I have lived here for 8 years. I moved here for the natural beauty, a simpler life, and most of all, peace and quiet. Feel strongly about protecting these qualities of where we live, and that they may be compromised by this wedding event center being built in close proximity to my house. Added traffic, which will increase wear and tear on the road and maintenance, not to mention the increased dust. Another issue just as important is water usage. I'm fully against this commercial venture using water from our Mad Dog Water Company. It is already a fragile system, as we have seen. It doesn't take much to upset the balance of usage versus storage capacity. I'm glad that the bylaws clearly state a commercial use of water from Mad Dog is legal. I'm stating my opposition to this commercial venture, but like I said, it does not strictly pertain to the variance request. Thank you for whoever brought it. That's it.
I have some questions, if it's time.
Yep.
Okay, Gerald. The existing well you have is not potable, correct?
We can, sorry, I was the one over there.
No, either
Sorry.
one, yeah.
We had Brian from Wildcat Drilling come up, and it was an old system. I don't completely understand it, but we tried to reclaim it. We tried to get the existing pipe out. It had a pump on top, so there's a foot valve in the bottom.
Mhm.
And it hasn't been used in quite some time. we tried to, he has a tool to go down, cut the pipe off, he said I'm pumped up. The water was like, it's nothing, there's no water.
Okay, and so what is the likelihood that this new well you're going to drill, A, what's the timeline? B, what kind of assurances do we have that it's gonna be potable? And I think I heard you say that this is gonna be piped or trucked to this cistern? Is there a way that you can bury a pipe?
That is what we want to do because it's convenient. It is with the DNR, we can haul it. It's about, well, as it sits now with not doing it on the particle the venue is on, it's about 1,200 feet. I've talked to Brian, it is possible to pipe it and pump it that far, all the way to the venue.
And he's pretty much guaranteeing you that it is potable water that you
So-
will be able to use?
That well, was used for residential use. That's the reason it was drilled. There's one, within 500 yards,
Mhm.
the same valley that is potable water there also in that area.
So what kind
He
of?
can't guarantee it. I mean,
Well, I get that, you know, but, a reasonable belief. What kind of timeline are we looking at that you would have that well drilled?
So I have, the well permit is approved. I'm relying on getting somebody to drill the well. Last I talked to him, he said 6 to 8 weeks if you don't get too much snow. I don't know if we got that much time before we get too much snow.
Yeah, depends on how much snow.
And
how much snow.
I have called a couple in Montrose and they have not called me back.
Okay, so what is your plan if, since this, you're asking for a temporary variance, what is your plan if that well is not potable water for long-term use?
Hopefully the other parcel, the subdivision thing works itself out and I'll drill a well there.
Can you explain the proximity?
Yeah,
Yeah,
County road splits them.
okay.
One's 300 or what is it, 260 acres or something. The other one's 62 that the venue's on.
Do you have a map of that?
well, then we're piping under a county road?
Yeah.
If that occurs?
If we have to do it, yeah, if we don't get the plat resolved.
Okay, because I would be remarkably against a permanent water hauling situation.
Me too.
Okay, because it, yeah,
I put in utilities for the wedding, it's not a huge deal, but.
yeah, so maybe you can tell me that you guys have had events here before. What is your normal attendance, or I see that you say 250 people. So how much, yeah,
Because of parking and everything else, they've been from 9 to 200 people.
And-
Honestly, 9 people to 200. I would say in the 150.
About 120, 150 is kind of the range for most of them.
okay, so what would you say the highest water use is with that 200 people? How much water do you have to haul to satisfy that event?
I will say some, and it's hard to figure out, our engineered septic drawings are based on 5 gallons per person.
5 gallons, that would be the.
So, 750, that'd be 1,250 gallons.
We
How big
contact,
is
and I
your
know
cistern?
what that,
How big is your
I
cistern?
believe those are 1,900 gallons.
Okay.
Brittany,
It's on there that, the bridal, it wasn't suite, I looked on your website. Cottage, and you had a 2-night thing, so that's a whole different adventure.
Right, that's not on the property,
Oh, it's not,
no.
okay, then that, okay, because I was wondering how you were getting water to that. Okay. I know that there's a lot of citizens that have some other considerations on this that will be dealt with in other meetings. We can only deal with the variance on the cistern at this meeting. So just be aware of that. I think that's all the questions I have.
Mike?
Are you done with the public comment? There's nobody else that
No,
wants to
that
speak?
was it. That was,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what we careful. That was all this, that was all that signed up.
We have others that haven't signed up.
They came in after.
Came late.
They were late.
So come on up.
Okay? Kim, let me run the meeting.
Yes, I will.
My name is Larry Jensen. I'm a rancher in the Crawford area. We own a 160-acre parcel right immediately west of the proposed venue. I have a couple of concerns I'd like to share with you. The first one I have is I was on the Crawford Mesa Water Board for 2 terms. I'm pretty well aware of the Crawford water system that services both the town of Crawford and the outlying area. There's 4 springs that contribute or are the source of water for those. One of the springs is the town of Crawford gets 75% of the water. And the rest of the 25% in the other 3 springs go to the Crawford Mesa Water Company. There's a couple of things that I think you need to know about the Crawford Mesa water system. First of all is the supply and demand curves are in reverse. The high demand period is in the summer months where it has the low production. So there's a seasonal limitation on the amount of water that's available. In the summertime, it reduces significantly. It's much higher in the winter. The reason that's significant is both Crawford and Crawford Mesa has not been able to sell water taps for over 25 years because of the seasonal fluctuation, which will have a significant effect. If you overtax the fill station in Crawford, then there's going to be a lot of citizens that won't have enough water in certain periods of the year to where they can have service for their household. The town of Crawford right now has got a grant to build an additional storage tank for water. So theoretically, they can sell more water at the fill station. The downside to that is Crawford Mesa Water will then have to bear the brunt of the additional water that they tank, because the extra water that comes from the Wiley Springs is the property of Crawford Mesa. So the outcome would be, it's not like they're getting more water. They're taking it from one set of water users and giving it to the other. And this was agreed upon, but it does have an impact on the people that live on Crawford Mesa. I think it's a significant impact. We've had several drought years where they weren't able to sell water out of the fill station. If at that usage they can't, what's going to happen when you put a 250 person venue that's taking water out of it to serve the same purpose? I think you need to be aware of that because it could be a real impact on the Crawford area. The other issue I wanted to talk about is we have a well that's immediately west of the venue. That well was drilled in basaltic alluvium, which would have the impact by them having their water system for us may be the effluent that comes from the water from the cistern could very well damage the water quality of our well immediately west of them. I think that has to be a consideration because it's the do no harm to your neighbor concept, and they can't control what the effluent does out of a leach field. I'd like to thank you for your time. I appreciate you hearing what I have to say.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that we overlooked? No, Mike.
Okay. So I guess what bugs me a little bit about this is there's so many things we're not gonna talk about. And this whole water issue, which pertains to the cistern, should have been handled at the beginning with an application and should have shown their due diligence to pursue every avenue available to provide water for their project. I don't have a problem with the project, it's just the process, what we're being asked to do is at the wrong time in the application, in my mind, and so we have to deal with it. I don't understand why the city of Crawford is not the only place that you can purchase potable water. So we seem to be hung up on, we have to get it. We have to
There's a
get the
standpipe.
potable water from just the one source. It is the closest source. But there are multiple places you can get that and have less effect on your neighbors or less impact. It's not the neighbors' problem that they need this kind of volume and it's gonna affect their reserve to accomplish what they want to accomplish. I don't know, we're not locked into the city of Crawford, right?
Sir, may I
Sure.
say
Yep.
something?
Yep.
I have a water account for my business that we do horizontal directional drilling. I don't know if I can name one that I do not have on the western side of Colorado. And we use from the municipalities, we use 20 to 25,000 gallons of potable water a day. And it's pretty much from Evergreen or Silverthorne to Utah to New Mexico to Wyoming.
So you understand my point, it's not,
100%.
you're not committed,
And I could provide you all those water accounts.
yeah,
And then I have the capacity to haul that much, 20,000 gallons of water a day if I had.
so that's my point to getting hung up on how much we can beat up the town of Crawford, because we don't wanna take water away from anybody else.
There is a standpipe in Hotchkiss. And
Mhm.
typically they shut the one in Crawford down first before they shut the one down in Hotchkiss if it's a low
That's
water
kind of
unit.
the point. You
I know
can
that.
travel 20 miles in any direction
I know
and
that.
be able to buy potable water. It's his expense. It's not the responsibility of the people in Crawford. But it's really wrong that we're having to deal with this at this stage of the game. They superseded every other aspect of that regulation. That's not what we're here to talk about. I get that. But somebody mentioned, I think more than once in our packet, getting the cart before the horse.
Yes, absolutely.
So I guess that's my problem with it. I've looked on the internet. It's a beautiful location, beautiful area. Needle Rock is kind of why I moved from New Hampshire to Colorado, because my in-laws lived in Crawford. It's really nice. They've had venues there. I don't know. There are ways around getting what they want to do. They've already had those functions out there. So they've obviously had porta potties or had a way to take care and facilitate 100 guests or more. To me, that may be where they need to stay until they can resolve their water issue. If they can do it by bringing whatever bottled water in, I don't know how they do it. But if they've got the portalets, they pretty well extensively have all the food and the beverage stuff accounted for. That's all at arm's length from them. All that's gonna be catered and brought in. So I guess I do have a problem with us dealing with it at this stage, just because everything else has been overlooked. It's like we're gonna make a decision on forgiveness instead of permission, and the permission is for these folks to do
That's wrong.
do the permitting or whatever. I hate the word permit, but that's what we're looking at. That's our land use code, and that's why they've asked us to sit up here, so that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Candace?
I've got nothing for once. No, I agree. It puts us kind of in a hot seat to determine whether or not this is sustainable, not just sustainable, but the correct direction to go, if it was approved. There's no guarantee. The commercial permitting process for the well should have taken place first and foremost with the due diligence period taking place. You know, and when I had Brittany pull up the map, it was simply a logistical standpoint to see whether or not And I'm still a little bit confused. So you have your domestic well on the property that is entangled with the subdivision, right? Or no, that's part of the commercial.
It's on
So this property here
Yeah.
is where there was an existing well, and that's what was deemed to be
Okay.
not reliable, it had issues, whatever the
Right.
issue was. So it's somewhere over here, and then you have the county road that comes here, so they. At one point, there was a well applied for, like right in this proximity, but it was never completed, so there was no permit issued.
Okay.
So that's where, you know, if this didn't work out and they can get removed out of the subdivision, they can apply for the commercial well here and then pipe it over.
Right.
To the venue.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. We did just recently figure out that well, I found it. We found out that there was already a well there. I found it. It wasn't, that was like 5 weeks ago when I contacted them, when I found it. It just took them that long to to get there to try and see if it. Yeah, so it didn't just, you know, I didn't want the impression that we just did this right before this meeting. I had started the process weeks and weeks ago, and I could
Should have
provide
been
all.
months ago.
Yeah.
It should have been.
Can I
months ago.
speak on that? Can I finish speaking? I'll let you guys finish speaking. So I just wanted to make that clear that it kind of a coincidence. It just happened right before we applied for this, that he finally got out there. I did the best I could to get the information out as soon as it.
The other,
I tend to agree with the other two, that this is the cart before the horse. It, probably, you know, in a perfect world, they probably didn't realize they were gonna need, how are you guys supplying water there now?
right,
You're having events now, right?
No, they're on the other parts lot in the field.
Oh, okay.
We won't use any water.
So it's all porta potty. It's all porta potties what you're using now.
They've been, yeah. That's all.
And how much drama would it be for you? Because this is a cistern that is not made yet, correct? It's not been done. And you're at the well process where hopefully it will only take you a couple of months, correct? If that,
That's on Brian. Yeah, I hope.
I would be inclined to. I'm not a fan of cisterns, and the state is definitely not a fan of cisterns. I need direction, Sean. I think this needed to go way different in the planning department, and this is where those APCs would have been useful with the neighbors. What my recommendation would be is that they go with what they're currently using until they get the well, and then they come back and, at that point, hopefully you've got potable water and it's piped, and then we don't have this issue. We still have other issues, but not that issue. Clean, safe, drinkable water. If you've got a commercial kitchen in there,
No commercial kitchen.
no,
No,
but
we
you've
have
got,
two coolers.
Did it say that in the website? That's in your website.
Doesn't say commercial kitchen.
the only thing I've seen.
Look at the website, it does. Actually, I read something, it's, you guys have like a Marvin kitchen.
Yeah.
Kitchen.
No different.
There's no oven.
That's though if the caters bring
Yeah.
stuff in, they can warm it up.
That's in our packet.
That's not, yeah, that's not a commercial kitchen. All right, other,
What's your thoughts on it?
the ranch of Malton.
thought about it a lot. And I am so on the fence. And that had to do with the cart before the horse.
Yes.
because of a different circumstance than the one that went up in my backyard. But that's served by Tri-County and not something like this. So I have absolutely nothing against somebody trying to do something on their own property. But you've got to take into consideration those around you.
Yes.
With, and that's one thing that I think, once again, the cart before the horse, because as much as I hate to admit it, the county hasn't looked at that either, so,
Mhm.
but we need to stick with this cistern deal. We can't get off on those other tangents right now. So, that's where I stand on that.
I guess I feel like we could revisit this when all the other ducks are in a row and there still is no option. They should be able to come back in the process, once they've started the process. And then if they need to ask for a variance, because there is absolutely no other option for them, that would make sense to come in and ask for a variance and say, we need to bring potable water to the property. That would be the time to, and that still may happen. We hope it doesn't, but once you've exhausted all those other avenues and you've gone through what you're gonna need to go through with planning and the planning commission probably, before it would come to us.
There's probably no perk tests that have been done or anything like that. By Brian.
Yeah, for our septic, system.
No, Brian, he,
No, not with Brian.
No,
okay.
Well, yeah. He just came up and inspected the existing well there.
Well, yeah. And was that well dry or it just?
No, it was full of, it was
Okay.
muddy, but it
Sediment.
hasn't been used
Sure.
for 20 years.
Sure.
I'm lucky to find
30
it.
years,
Yeah.
30 to 40 years.
Is there any chance that it is revivable according to him or no?
No, that in his letter, that's what we did that day. I said, let's reclaim this, and obviously that would be the simplest thing, but didn't.
So perplexing position for us to be in when we don't have, quantifiable data or any results, and we're trying to make stuff happen based on nothing right now. There's a lot of different things that go into an approval of a variance, even something that seems so not substantial, it can make a huge difference in the future. And I don't feel we have enough to really approve or even conditionally approve. We might need to table this until some other boxes are checked and whatnot.
I don't think you'd have to table it.
Not table it, but yeah.
Let it go
Get
back
it
and let
down.
us do the process when it's the appropriate time, come here
Mhm.
to make a variance to the land use code, then we should definitely address it. But I guess I'm leaning towards that.
I agree. Sean, is there any,
Yeah, we need a
is there
motion in
planning
that.
commissions, whatever else? Site visits, meetings with neighbors, any of that kind of stuff gonna go on?
There should be a neighborhood meeting that will occur as part of the conditional use permit, and then a planning commission meeting and their recommendations, and that's a public hearing as well. And then goes to the board of county commissioners, provided there's no additional requirements put on by the county commission.
And how long would you expect that takes? That it could come back before us, for a variance for a cistern?
Oh, yeah, it can be without really a water solution, we're kind of back to where we are.
I mean, there's no telling, we can't guarantee when they can get out for the well or do tests or drilling or any of that. But, taking it to the planning commission, we don't have control over how they swing this thing either, so they could possibly table it for more info, they could, it's really up in the air at this point. I can't give you like a definite timeline.
Sean, would you estimate or guesstimate rather that there's more variances that they possibly could require or request from us?
I don't foresee any, do you, Kate? The water is the major variant.
And I know we can't get off too far in the weeds, I'm just inquiring.
So being frank about it, all of this should have been exhausted before we got to this point. So, you know, I think that's something that needs to be worked through, and if they can get out of this subdivision and possibly drill for another well on their property, as opposed to piping it across the road, I mean, all of that needs to be settled, whether there's water coming from it or if it's a possibility before they apply for a variance to come back for the cistern.
Agree.
Okay.
Done deliberating?
I think so.
Yes,
I entertain a motion.
yes,
that
you may.
we, recommend denial of this application. Looking for the number in that one.
Look here.
Oh. For project 24-063 Hawk. And we'll just, if we have to, we'll revisit it at the appropriate time.
Restate your motion again.
My recommendation is for denial. And that if we need to, we would revisit at the appropriate time in the application process. Sounds better the second time.
Do we have a second on that?
I would second that.
Moved and seconded to deny, to deny the request on. No, I lost the number.
Here.
My paper. 24-063 Hawk. And it has been seconded. All of those in favor of the motion,
I,
motion carries. Denial made to that variance. And we'd like to revisit it when the time comes around.
May I also make a request that you need Jenny, right? You had a picture of I'll give you, yeah, just so we have those on record.
I'm sorry, Daryl, that's like what we wanted to do that now, sorry.
That's, thank you for your time. Yeah. Learning what it is.
Yeah.
Process, that's the thing.
Yeah, don't understand it, we're learning.
That would conclude the scheduled item, project 24-063 Hawk. We have a couple more items on the agenda, board and department wise, and can stay and listen to those, but if you'd like to leave now, you can feel free.
Great, thank you, everybody.
Thank you for your time. Thank you. That's what, just kidding, right? Yeah. We have to continue our meeting, so if you can move outside. Right. Oh, yes. Good. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's when, you know.
Yeah, I think it's great that you got that.
Or I could.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. All right, board comments, requests and referral.
Yeah, I have a comment. I've gone in the last year and a half to the county commissioners and spoken with them about minute things in the land use code that they can easily change. It would make it a lot easier for the applicants if they didn't have to figure their driveway distances at 65 miles an hour. So I'm gonna keep harping on this every time we get a new Director of Planning. So the last two directors of planning, I've spoken with both of them on it. And they, unfortunately, both disappeared right after. Very soon after.
No, they disappeared after I volunteered to give them a ride up in District 3. That's when they disappeared.
Disappeared during the ride.
They never made the ride, yeah.
I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna set up a meeting with Sean and just, visit some of those things. If anybody really just reads through that thing twice, it'll give you some brain damage, but for the surveyors, the guys that put driveways in, every aspect of any kind of development in our county is dictated by the new land use code. They've thankfully taken out the verbiage of a Pacific Ocean, which is great, because not all of us knew that venue, but you don't see that until you look up how they want you to do something. That we can tell them as a county, this is how you're gonna put in a road, or this is how you're gonna do this, that, or the other. And when it comes time to actually reading that, well, I need 12 inches of this kind of gravel and 6 of this and so on. It's all spelled out, but we really don't hurt the ocean. So that's gone, thankfully.
Okay.
There's other things they didn't want to visit with me on the couple of items that I'd love to change, or at least get them to look at. How they calculate the distances of driveways was one, but they don't want to talk to me. So I get the Heisman because they need to they need to approve the last set of changes. So that happened before you took over it, when they actually approved the last set, so.
And we're working on a new set.
Oh, you're gonna be working on a new set for the next 20 years. What I'm looking for is an administrative decision. It doesn't have to go back, and we don't have to rewrite the Bible for them to make a decision to really do what's right, or use a formula that actually exists. If you're gonna use a speed limit formula, the top speed limit in Delta County is 45 miles an hour. Period. Anything bigger than that's a state road. I've even asked Mark Taylor about it, just to confirm that I don't spout off in a meeting somewhere and I'm wrong. But there's lots of little things that get brought up at each different aspect of our land use code. And I don't think any of them really need to go back and have things rewritten. They ought to be able to say, well, I don't care what the state says, this is our speed limit, and we're gonna classify this road as such. It's not an arterial, it's a gravel road on the side of a mountain. It's not a major arterial. We should be able to classify our roads, and we do for a whole lot of roads. But, there's so many things that you're gonna be dealing with that the general population is becoming more and more aware of. How many roads in Delta County are actually owned by Delta County? Pretty small percentage. That what they own in fee simple is not very big comparatively with everything else. The other two forms of county roads are, I'm gonna draw a blank now, but you have an easement and you have a right of way. And that's what most of ours are, easements. So every piece of property that I own in Delta County touches paved roads, gravel roads, and I own to the middle of that road. I pay taxes to the middle of that road because the county does not own that in fee simple. The county has an easement through it. Well, take 34,000 people in Delta County. when they realize that they're paying taxes on all that square footage, that's gonna come down and give the commissioners some serious heartburn. And they don't wanna talk about it in a public meeting, but somebody needs to bring it up. There are just little things that they could adjust in the land use code. They won't fix that one in the land use code, cause it's a road and bridge issue, but
Mhm.
I don't see how we're gonna, unless you would adopt it in your newest regulations that you're gonna get, if you somehow tweak that a little bit, so it's open for discussion or whatever,
Mhm.
just on the classification of our roads and stuff. But there's more of that than,
Well, I welcome a meeting with you.
don't
to-
bring it up, yeah.
To listen to what they and what you understand, so
Yeah.
please schedule.
So,
a meeting.
yeah, just know, and then if you quit 60 days afterwards,
We're gonna come
they're
haunt
gonna
you.
find a way because you'd be the third one in a row.
It's not us. It's not us.
I don't mean it to be spiteful, but if any of us bring something up that clearly is not, it's just not right, and it's not just a personal opinion that
Well, it's-
doesn't make it right.
It's not you, they won't answer
It's-
my phone calls either.
Yeah, so. Anyhow, that's it. Just know I'm gonna give you a call when I'm working back in Delta and we'll get together.
Please do.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I have a quick comment too.
You were next.
You and I had a conversation earlier about term limits. I turn
Yeah,
out
that's-
when Dawn's done.
Okay.
What does that mean for this seat? Do I,
Reapply?
yeah, I was voluntold.
Apply?
And you can fill out the form online.
Okay, I wasn't certain, with the new commissioner coming in, how that was handled, if I needed to do something official, not, I don't know what to do,
Well,
so,
there's still a vacancy in District Two. If the new
There's-
commissioner wants somebody, he can bring somebody in.
yeah.
No, you would just simply reapply.
Okay.
Send it to Lindsay and then he can pass it on to the commissioners.
Very
And
good.
you guys let us know when we're getting close to being up or whatever, or
Don't even think that.
It's on the
It-
list.
It's
on
when,
the
it's when,
list, yeah.
it's when.
there's a termination date.
Yeah, it's, I think you're past time at this point.
You get voluntold, that's how you get on these, that's how I always get on these boards.
Yeah. So,
And I do enjoy it. It's rather educational for me. I do also want to make another comment that, boy, this felt wrong.
Yeah.
The process behind it, the procedure to get here,
That's,
it just felt wrong.
I agree.
it's
I
a
mean,
good feeling to be on the board when things go right, if you will, or when we get that email that there's not a meeting this month. Those are really good months. But when I read this one, it was like, why us? This isn't right, yeah.
I think it was premature as well, but there's a lot of pressure to try to move them forward with some kind of a solution, and they made the request.
I know,
and
we
didn't
watched
know
it
that-
done.
I didn't know that I could impede the request to get before the board of adjustment with the request for a variance. I didn't think it had a chance, but I just didn't think that I could impede their request to come to the board of adjustment, and I welcome your input if you believe that I should handle those situations differently.
Because there is a little bit of a legal standard here, you guys, the Board of Adjustments and blocking access, even if it's for this purpose. They have a right to ask.
Oh, sure.
Sure.
And I think that's where you guys got stuck.
Mhm.
They have the right to request an audience.
yeah. we
and
don't
did they
wanna take
request
that
it
away.
just on the cistern, or
Right,
did
yeah.
we discuss all the other issues
For the
with this
cistern.
too, like neighbors problems and,
Those are all that come down the line.
but I think those should have been first.
Did
Oh,
did
is my
not follow
point,
the
yeah.
process as it should have. I will
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I think you have a lot of very upset neighbors because it didn't follow the process, so we need to make that right.
I think so too. I mean, they started the project and then we heard customer or neighbor complaints and then we
I know.
got an application, so. And, that's why I elevated to a conditional use permit, so we go through the whole public process and, think that it's the best way to handle the situation.
I get
I
it.
think-
It's hard on both sides,
Yeah.
but yeah. This one in particular would have been a lot better, if you, or I'll go with you, go out with our bulletproof vests and go talk to the neighbors and see what they think. You know, cause I do, there's a lot of them that have a lot of opinions about this and they're justified in
They
some of
they
their
are
opinions.
required to have a neighborhood meeting, and they are ready to do that, but they're not ready to do that.
Uh-huh.
I felt like they had to get an updated business plan and site plan, they didn't have a sufficient one. And then they didn't have a solution for water, so I didn't think they were really ready to answer questions to neighbors, but I definitely can give them that permission to do so now. They're still gonna be in the situation that they're in, facing the neighbors. And it is a requirement in the conditional use permit to have a neighborhood meeting.
Hopefully the neighbors will attend. You want to
I
just
think they will.
segue right into
I'm
your,
pretty sure they will.
to your department report since have the floor.
Sean's quitting, thanks.
Yeah.
Currently not. I haven't even well, I did offer. They only quit when I offer them a ride in District 3.
Good.
I don't have much to report and prepared to give anything of substance, this time I'm a month and a half in, I'm just trying to keep the wheels on the bus.
Yeah, well, welcome.
Okay, yeah, welcome. I mean,
Oh, well, okay, I
Thank
do
you.
have something, thank you, Kate, I'm sorry.
Sorry, didn't say something.
Directed,
Kate, is there something you need to say?
He's quitting.
so
No, yeah, no, we're stuck here, you're stuck here. Sit.
Brittany and Kate have been promoted. Brittany has been promoted to planner 1,
I saw that.
Kate to planner 2.
Nice.
It's a lot of work. Everyone here is a lot of work, so we appreciate you. Ladies are awesome. Good.
I have obviously the procedures and land use code. Kate is training me.
That's, walk into an office where they run it, huh?
Well, that's just the reality of the situation, so.
Is it too
Well, I was-
early? Christmas bonuses?
There you go.
Give it.
Yeah.
Made by you, I do believe that.
Oh, they had a Christmas party.
For Everett,
Yes, ma'am.
you had that, land use or the code and compliance, meeting on the 17th.
Mhm.
Sadly, there were far too many other things going on that night. Is there any way you can have another one of those up there?
already, I have one every month.
Do you?
Oh, wow.
I've been doing this for almost 8 months, where I have open meetings
So we haven't had a meeting.
for
Well,
anyone
yeah,
who wants to attend. We have thing to do with land use code, how to navigate within the land use code, code compliance and process. I usually have Kate and Britt up here to also run through it, hey, if you have an application, these are the steps you're gonna take, these are the kinds of things. We basically make the planning department available to answer any and all questions. If I don't know, I'll find out. And that's kind of how I run the meeting.
And we have snacks.
Yeah, look at that.
But I've been doing that.
Dang it.
I'm there.
On Facebook, they get I went around and handed out 30 flyers personally between Hotchkiss and Crawford for that meeting.
I never knew about it, but I already had 3 commitments I had to
But no,
get to
I
that
do
night. It was a
every month.
choice, yeah.
And I'm still wavering on to do another one up there to give another run at it. Because I had traditionally been doing them here at the Sam Wade Room,
Mhm.
because again, these are after hours.
Mhm.
These are conversations, there's no decision-making bodies. This is open forum. I tell people they don't even need to tell me their name. This is for you to have access to us and answer any questions we can come up with, discuss topics. Really, the crowd determines the topic. I'll usually have one thing I might hit, like I hit tiny homes, so people understand that there was, but the tiny home would have got adopted as a mobile home. We've gone through junk and rubbish ordinances, land use code, code compliance programs. I usually have a small topic that I start with, and then it goes the direction of the audience. At that point in time, if they have questions, I let them steer the conversation.
I think that's fantastic. Have you received quite a bit of community response?
Well, when I first started, we had all the we actually had a large contingency of people who were anti-land use.
Mhm.
And this was a great opportunity, because I'm not afraid. I'm transparent. If I don't know, I'll tell you. If I do, I will. But the whole point is I say, lay it on me. What do you got? What do we have to deal with here? And what is it that we're doing that stops you from doing what you want to do? And most of it turned out to be a lot of misinformation.
Yep.
Because I would always have projection screen with the land use code. I go, okay, what is it, your question? They'll watch me type it. I'll go Control F for the topic. Like fences came up and I go, we don't regulate fences. I'll type it in and go, there's nothing there. Someone said, I can't build a swing set. And I go, well, type in swing set. Nothing there. So really it was more about, a lot of that was based on just misinformation, people not understanding what the regulations were and actually how much we do not regulate.
I think it would be worthwhile if you scheduled another one in the North Fork.
Yeah, I'm already pondering it. It just takes a little more acquisition and timing due to the fact we do use the fairgrounds. So,
I have another location for you. We can either use Memorial Hall or we can use the museum. I have keys to both.
well, then that's, because like I said, I'm always open to locations, anywhere I can bring people in. That's my goal, is to bring people in, have candid conversations. We don't get into politics. I shut down politics. I'm not here to tell you how it was wrote or why we wrote it. I'm here to help you navigate it.
Mhm.
And also, if something comes up that we need to address, that maybe I can bring it up, but I'm not a decision maker. And that's the whole point. We want to have conversations. What is it that you need and how can we supply that?
And that's great. When I was on the planning commission for 9 years, including when we had APCs, and those were exceptionally useful in these kinds of cases, because we could go out and have a neighborhood meeting and get their thoughts on it and either quell their fears or tell them why we can't or do whatever. And we're no longer doing that, I don't think.
Because that's why I've been doing these things for almost 8 months. Is to provide access, to understand what we can control, what we can't. A lot of that is where I explain statutorily driven versus what the county wants.
Yeah.
There's a big misnomer there as well. People aren't realizing that there's statutory driving what we do. A lot of times we mimic the statute. That's not up for debate. A lot of people don't realize there's a difference. We're not just willy-nilly making things up. A lot of this stuff is statutorily driven.
I totally get it, and I attempt to educate anybody about that asks me, but there's, District 3 is, okay, we drink weird water up there, right?
I am.
We'll see, okay, you get it.
It's been a long time.
Oh, okay, so,
Anything else for further consideration for the Board of Adjustment meetings?
apparently not.
Can I just ask how you publish that? Because this is new information to me and I'd like to attend.
Certainly. It's usually always on our website.
Okay,
And I think we have a Facebook page. I think last time we even had, I put it on Crawford message board, Hotchkiss message board,
which one?
whichever one was the biggest. We tried to just,
Okay,
this last one, we tried to blast all the
but,
boards.
but the Delta County government Facebook page is
Yeah,
the one to
and,
go to?
Yeah.
Okay,
because we always publish it there.
please try to have one in the Norfolk Valley again. I'd like to go.
It sounds like that's what I'm gonna do then.
And the ride is always open.
I will adjourn the meeting at 6:48. You guys can talk about whatever.